Okay, good morning, everyone. So here's a worksheet for you guys. For my worksheets, I'm going to go over about half the problems, and then you'll be assigned to do the other half. So at least you'll have one problem or two to reference, okay? So first, number one, we want to state if each pair of ratios forms a proportion. So the biggest thing we're looking for these is if they share a common factor, if we could simplify this. So if we're looking at 8 over 6, can we simplify that anymore? And your answer should be yes, you can. 8 and 6, they share a common factor of 2. So if you break that up, it's like 4 times 2, and then 3 times 2. So since they have that same factor, they could cancel out. So that is equal to 4 over 3. So do they form a proportion? Yes, they do. Okay. So big thing for number 2, because you'll be doing this one on your own, is make sure that they share a common factor. So for example, 15, it's 5 times 3. Now you have to factor out 12 and see that after you cancel out, like how I canceled out the number 2, if they equal the same thing, if that equals that fraction that we're working with. So for number 3, we want to solve the proportion. So I want this n to equal, so basically that both sides are equal to each other. So what we do, we cross multiply. So then it'll be 10 times n is equal to 4 times 2, which is 8. And then just like how you would solve a one-step equation, I need to divide by 10 to both sides. So 8 divided by 10 and we can simplify that to 4 over 5. So that would be our n value that would make the proportion equal to each other. For number 5, same thing, we cross multiply. So you get 5p, because it's 5 times p, is equal to 10 times 7, which is 70. And same thing, divide by 5 to both sides. So then p is equal to 14. Okay. If you ever wanted to see if that works, plug it back in and simplify. They should equal the same. So for all these, we want to evaluate each expression. So we have 8 plus negative 1. Since that's a plus and a minus, we could rewrite that. That's the same as saying 8 minus 1, which is 7. Okay. For number 8, I'm not going to do this one, but basically the same concept. You could switch that 8 and negative 6, and it will look exactly like number 7, or very similar to it. Okay. For number 9, negative 3 minus 7. Since they're both negatives, I'm just going to add up the numbers and keep that negative sign. It's almost like if we drew our number line for this one, and negative 3 is here. Since it's negative 7, we're going left 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's how I got negative 10. And lastly, for number 11, 6 minus negative 8. So the biggest thing I want to point out is that if you have these two negative signs, remember, a negative times a negative becomes a positive. So it's basically the same as just a giant positive sign. So it's the same as doing 6 plus 8, which is equal to 14. Biggest thing, again, I cannot stress enough, if you see two negative signs, so a negative or a minus and then a negative number, that just becomes a big positive number. So instead of subtracting, we're going to be adding the whole thing. Okay. For number 13, I want to find the circumference of each circle. So for circumference, that is equal to C is equal to 2 pi r, where r is my radius. So for number 13, this line here, that 12 kilometers, that's my r. So from here, you just plug it in. So C, because we still need to find that, is equal to 2 pi times 12. Okay. Now if we multiply 2 times 12, that gives me 24 pi. And then we're going to let pi is equal to 3.14. So then 24 times 3.14, if you plug that in, it's equal to 75.4 kilometers. So for this, it all is going to be an estimate. So if you get a little bit off, but you get 75.3, 75.5, but it's pretty close, that should be fine. And last thing, since we do have that unit of kilometers, you got to make sure you write that down. So just like for number 14, since it says yards, make sure you have yards in your answer. I'm going to zoom out. I'll give you a few seconds to copy down anything that you might have missed before I move on to the next page. Okay, I'm going to move on. If you're still copying some stuff down, go ahead and pause the video and start back up when you're ready. Okay, so for number 15, I want to find the area of each now. Remember, my area is equal to pi r squared. So again, this is my r. So area is equal to pi times 8 squared. And squared, again, is just 8 times 8. So 8 times 8 is 64 pi. Pi is the same, so 64 times 3.14. When you plug that into the calculator, you should get 201.1 kilometers squared. Again, make sure you do not forget the unit. The reason why it's squared is because we're taking 8 kilometers, so this radius, and we're multiplying it twice. So it's like kilometer times kilometer. That's why it's kilometers squared. Okay. So now on to 17. I want to find the diameter of each circle. So this one, my diameter, so we'll say D, is equal to 2 times my radius. So basically, whatever my radius is, I'm just going to multiply it by 2. So for number 17, my diameter is equal to 2 times my radius, which is 11. 2 times 11 is 22. And again, don't forget your units. So 22 yards. Okay. 18 is the same thing. And as long as you follow this formula, you'll be fine. Okay, so for 19, we want to solve each equation. This is a multi-step problem. I know you've seen one step and you've seen two step. Maybe not multi-step, but if you're able to do a two-step, you should be able to do a multi-step. It might take some time, but you'll be fine. So the first thing I need to do, I need to get rid of that parenthesis sign. And since it's 6 times 7 plus n, I'm going to distribute or multiply that 6 to both. So I'll get 6 times 7 is 42. And then 6 times n is just 6n. And that's equal to 90. Okay. From there, I know that a lot of you are taught to isolate the variable and build that wall. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, before I isolate that variable completely with that 6, I want to move over that 42. So I'm going to subtract 42 to both sides. That 6n moves down here. And then 90 minus 42 is not 58, but 48. So I'm going to rewrite it up top. Same thing, isolate that variable, continue to build that wall. This will be our last step. So for this one, since it's 6 multiplied by n, I need to do my opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. So that becomes just n, because the 6's cancel out to give me 1 times n. So it's just n. And then 48 divided by 6 is 8. And that would be my answer. So number 20. Just a reminder again. You want to distribute that -4 first before you solve for it. Okay. Remember, think about PEMDAS. Parentheses first. We cannot combine the like terms, so we're good there. There is no exponent. We're going to be multiplying, so that's where the distribution comes in. And then you go from there. All right, last two problems for us to go over. Same thing. I want to solve the inequality. Solving an inequality and solving a regular equation, basically the same up until you have to graph it or you have to deal with the inequality sign. So first thing, I'm going to distribute that 8. So I get 8r plus 56 is less than 120. Like I said, overall the same steps, so I'm going to isolate my variable, build my wall, and same thing. First thing I want to do is move over that 56. Majority of the time, you're going to either add or subtract first before you multiply and divide. There are cases where you have to multiply or divide first, but problems we have here, we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to subtract 56 to both sides. That 8r, because it's not affected, moves down, so I get 8r is less than 64. Let's draw that back up here again. Isolate, build your wall. Again, since it's 8 times r, I want to divide by 8. Remember, take the opposite operation that you're doing. So r is less than 8. Okay. So as far as my graph, since it's just less than, think about it, is it open circle or closed circle? So for this one, it's going to be an open circle. And then am I going to go to the left or to the right? So this one, I will be going to the left. If you are not sure which way to go, just pick a number besides 8 for this case. So let's say I picked 7. Since 7 is less than 8, I know that's true, so I gotta cover 7, so that's why I'm going to the left. If it didn't work, so if I picked 9, Since 9 is not less than 8, I have to go away from 9. So that's why I'm moving to the left. Okay. All right, let's try 23. So same thing, distribute first. So I get 3 minus 12n is greater than 87. Same thing, isolate my variable and build that wall. Since I have a plus 3 or a positive 3, I'm going to subtract it first. So it all moves down, even the negative, so I have negative 12n is greater than 84. Let's try this back up top. Isolate wall. And same thing, since I'm multiplying that negative 12, I need to divide by negative 12. So I get n, and this is where it's important. Since I'm either, if you multiply or divide by a negative number like I did here, my inequality sign flips. So I do just want to point out again, I started off with the greater than sign, and my sign flipped the other way. A lot of people make that mistake. Okay, so from here, since it's an open circle, and since n is less than negative 7, I'm going to be going to my left. Okay. So that's about it. For 24, that one is a little bit difficult, so do your best. Same thing though, you want to distribute first, and before you add or subtract anything to the left, combine your like terms, because don't forget this negative 6. Okay? So that wraps it up. This is roughly going to be what our videos are like. They should be about this long, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit longer. To make sure to check to see if you watch the video, comment on the post what your favorite color is. Okay? If you have any questions, still comment. We're going to be using Google Classroom for as long as we're closed. I will be posting an IXL assignment on Wednesday as far as just some skills to work on. And then Friday will be when I'm posting a video to answer the remainder of these problems that I'm having you work on and for you to turn in the assignment. Okay, so do your best. Give it your best shot. Stay safe. Stay healthy. All right, see you later.